And this is a big one. This is what everyone is waiting for, especially if you're like me and waited on running back and lost Marlon Mack and Philip Lindsay. So, it is time for the Waiver Wire show here on the Audible. That is right. Cecil Lammey and Sigmund Bloom, you need some help. Even after week one, your team's decimated. Maybe you're like me and lost Philip Lindsay and Marlon Mack in the same week. When you waited on running back, we are here for you. And that's why this Waiver Wire show is here. Bloom, it feels good to be back.
It's great to be back. And it's better to lose your running backs to injury than just have running backs that you wonder, why did I draft him? I don't even know what I was doing, Kerryon Johnson. It is this first round of the second draft, Cease, and there's some tough calls, and we'll do our best to help you. But the important thing is, as we go through this, and those of you that are longtime Waiver Wire show viewers, listeners, wide netting it. Maybe in your league, you're going to say, I wish these guys were available. Maybe when we get to 1% guys, you're going to say, I would never pick that guy up. That's okay. This is a sort of one-size-fits-all show. We try to wide net it. And the percentages that I give are not, that Cecil runs down, are not strict guidelines, all right? You know your league's betting tendencies with the Bucks better than I do. You know whether they're tight early in the season and you can get away and sneak someone off of the waiver wire cheaper early on. You know whether people are liberal and throw their money around, and that's great if I could get that player for 40%, but he's going to go for at least 75%. You know your league better than I do. The percentages are more to give you an idea of priorities within position and across positions. And then the other thing I'll say as a week 2 note, as this is round 1 of Cecil's second draft because of the injuries this year, shoot your shot, swing your sword. Even the bottom line is try to get some of these names this week. And maybe you might be best off missing out because someone else, sees the question I'm getting just over and over and over again. It's a great one. Snell versus Hines versus Malcolm Brown.
Right.
Well, if you just bid 35% on all three and let your league decide who you get, that's fine, especially if you're talking like a 0.5 PPR league where they're very close in value. But you want to err on the side of getting one of those guys instead of not getting one of those guys, because remember this, and see, we've been doing this show so long that it seems kind of obvious to me, but I know that things are obvious to us because we stare at fantasy football all day, every day, 365 days a year. The earlier you get someone in the season, the more they can help you. Mm-hmm. So saving that money and having the hammer in week 10, maybe there will be somebody who is a season changer for you. It can happen, but there was, meanwhile, 10 weeks, 9 weeks, because you're not going to get the help in week 1, that waiver wire players could have helped you. So err on the side of being aggressive this week. There are a lot of players to inspire us to be aggressive this week, Cease.
Right. Well, in the first round of the second draft, I like the way you put that, Bloom, is to go fill those parts where players were injured, but it's also to help out where you were a little bit light, like me waiting on running back and Fessel OG. Guess where I'm spending all my money this week? Yeah. Running back. And by
Leonard Fournette, shut him down.
By the way, our man Robert says, Sig just said wide net.
Yeah.
It's football season.
It is football season.
Wide net in this thing, starting with the quarterbacks, and only a few for the quarterback upgrades, downgrades, waiver wire list. This is available at footballguys.com. Gardner Minshew, deserving of his own segment at 5 to 10% this week.
Yeah, you love it. 19 out of 20. By the way, folks, we're trying to make the waiver wire upgrade, downgrade tighter this year. Not doing holding steady anymore. Trying to go deeper on fewer players, and also maybe we'll make some changes to the waiver wire parameters. More on that later. But if you're a user, subscriber, use this report, if there's anything we can do to help you, please don't hesitate. Gardner Minshew, 19 to 20. Jay Gruden can cook up some offense, and you're not starting Gardner Minshew in a one quarterback league probably. Tennessee's defense was good enough against Denver to give you a little bit of pause, but you love what Minshew's doing in this offense, and he's worth more than he was to begin the season, and he has at least bye-week injury emergency value, and he was so efficient. He was so in tune. See, new scheme, new coach, right? He was in tune with those plays. I mean, we think of Gardner Minshew as a spirit animal kind of quarterback, but I think he was a cerebral quarterback in this one. I think he was a quarterback in tune in a Jared Goff kind of way with his coach and the design of the plays and understanding the execution of the plays. So, this is impressive because the Jacksonville organization is not one that we think of when we think of, coming out like a fine-tuned, well-oiled machine. But that's what Gardner Minshew is right now.
Well, what's the dirty secret in the NFL, Bloom? Fit.
Yeah.
It's all about fit. And if you can find that right fit, you can play at a high level. So Gardner Minshew's out there for you if you need help moving down the list of our upgrade list. 1%er is Mitchell Trubisky. Yes, Mitchell Trubisky. And 1%er in 2QB or Superflex leagues is also Case Keenum. But Mitchell Trubisky's the one. Bloom, you just opened the show. Like, you might get down to the 1%ers and be like, I'd never had that guy. Well, maybe you'd think, I'd never add Mitchell Trubisky. Maybe you ought to consider it.
Well, he has running ability now again because his non-throwing shoulder is healthy. The Lions held him down until the fourth quarter, and the Lions secondary is really banged up, by the way. Aaron Rodgers. I've gotten some questions. Aaron Rodgers is on my waiver wire. How much? 25, 50%. I mean, he just looks like he's ready. The Jordan Love pick was just to light a fire. It's motivating Tatum Bell and Aaron Rodgers, right? So, Trubisky, he has the Giants this week. I'm not afraid of the Giants defense. If I don't really like the thing is, almost all of the quarterback picks that you were taking as a quarterback one were pretty good. So I don't think people are looking to make quarterback changes this week. Trubisky's there. And then there's Case Keenum. And I debated whether putting Nick Mullins in here, but I don't think Nick Mullins. I think we're like at DEFCON 4.8 on Jimmy Garoppolo. I think we're at DEFCON 4.5 or 4 on Baker Mayfield. I do think we can't discount what Case Keenum did with Kevin Stefanski. I mean, they almost went to the Super Bowl.
Right.
So there's no marriage between Mayfield and this regime. Now, there's a strong possibility that they're just going to keep slogging through it. If Mayfield's terrible in this offense and he still trips over the bumpers in the bumper bowling and can't even get the ball down the lane to the pins. But there's also a chance that, come week 4, come week 5, if it still looks clunky, at some point, whether to send a message to Mayfield or just to help the other players, you're incorporating all these other players into this new scheme. If Baker Mayfield can't run it, speaking of like Minshew, and Mayfield versus Minshew is one of my favorite narratives, by the way, Cease. Would you rather have Mayfield or Minshew right now?
Minshew. Yeah.
And I mean, it's very logical to pair them up, even though one was a number 1 overall pick and one was a 6th round pick, which this is great. This is stuff you can take over to your Denver Sports Talk show, Cease, because it's juicy stuff. But I think that for your 2 quarterback superflex leagues, you need to be ahead of the curve getting quarterbacks off the waiver wire. And the first thing we need to see, even if it's way down the road, Cease looking east, you can see a while down that road out of Denver. You can look down the road and it may be a ways away, but I think Cleveland has to be on our radar. And hey, if Jimmy Garoppolo continues to play badly, he gets the Jets this week. So, if he looks as bad against the Jets as he did against the Cardinals, he's on a year-to-year contract, basically. So these are things that we're thinking about, not close enough to do anything decisive yet, but in 2 quarterback superflex leagues, you have to be early on the drop to get those backup quarterbacks that might get a shot.
Well, and I would like to remind everyone that team loves Nick Mullins. So much so that when a team, Denver, approached them about trading for Nick Mullins, what was that, a year ago? And they said no. No, they don't want to trade the guy away. So just keep that in mind as we spin you through. Of course, I forgot Dr. Jene. It's the first show of the week. So if you listen to the audio show, you'll hear the magic of editing. If you're watching us, you'll be like, why do they take this pause? Why is there a pause in it as we get in quarterback talk? Now we move to running back discussion, and in comes Dr. Jene Bramel to give us the latest on the running back injuries. Dr. Jene, what's up? Waiver wire upgrades, downgrades, and waiver wire report. How many times can I say waiver wire, Bloom? At footballguys.com, Nyheim Hines. Available in almost 70% of leagues. That's ESPN leagues. So I'm sure he's out there. And a lot of people are saying, Well, now what's going to happen? Of course, no Marlon Mack, as we mentioned at the top of the show. So here comes Nyheim Hines. He is a 25 to 50 percenter, and one of those guys that's not just a receiving back. And hell, on the flip side, Bloom, Jonathan Taylor's not just a banger.
Right.
Because he almost got more passes in one game. They did all season long last year with Wisconsin. But yeah, Nyheim Hines, he's at the top.
This is hard for me, Cease, because we're all trying to be humble, you know. But if you listen to the show, you knew about Nyheim Hines. If you listen to the show, hopefully you drafted Nyheim Hines. I think there was one league that I missed him because I just got cute and I was like, I can wait another round. I can wait another round because I kept getting him later and later, even though the writing was on the wall. Let's just take these all together, Cease. And I absolutely want you to chime in because this is the biggest question of the week on the waiver wire. Hines versus Snell versus Brown.
It's Hines clearly.
I think so too. I think so too.
You know why above Snell? And I had a question about Snell yesterday from one of my producers at the Fan, Dylan, who was like, Snell, Brown. I think there was somebody else, but anyway, he didn't call him Benny Snell. He's like Bernard Snell or something. And I was like, who the hell are you talking about? And he's like, the Steelers. I'm like, oh, Benny Snell. Anyway, the reason why it's not Benny is because of Jalen Samuels and Anthony McFarland, who was inactive yesterday, but they still are super excited about him because of that running back by committee possibilities and just the fact that Ben will just throw their way out of it, you know? So for me, it's Hines clearly above any of the other choices. And with Malcolm Brown, who's a very nice, instinctive, natural runner, powerful runner, you also have Henderson and Akers, who are better all-around backs than Brown. Brown's not necessarily limited, but he's not as dynamic as a receiver as Henderson or Akers are. So you're going to take the limited guy in that trio where Sean McVay's already said, I want to do like Kyle Shanahan and have a hot hand committee. No, thanks. Give me Nyheim Hines above them. Clearly, Bloom.
Yeah, and I that's why I broke out Nyheim Hines, and I'll steal your thunder here. Well, Malcolm Brown, so Nyheim Hines 25 to 50%, Malcolm Brown, Benny Snell, James Robinson 20 to 40%, and we can handle these guys together. So I agree with you, Cease. Hines is your number one priority, and if it's a 0.5 PPR league, it gets tighter. But you gotta love it. Was Chris Wessling? Yeah, it was right. It was Chris Wessling, by the way, and Chris Wessling is a gem. I almost cursed. Sorry, Joe, because he's one of the poets of our football world. I know he's fighting cancer again, and at this moment, I just want to say, in so much that we pull together, we pulled each other up, we sent out positive energy. Chris Wessling sent out positive energy. He's the one that said sidecar, Philip Rivers sidecar. It's perfect, right?
Oh, nice.
Of course it was Wes.
Nice.
And that's the thing. It's just Philip Rivers sidecar. So the reason that none of these guys are 50+%, i.e. empty the wallet, get while the getting's good. I mean, if there's one this week, it might be Dallas Goedert, but that's for later in the show. It's because Hines' role, none of these guys are in good situations and true feature backs. Actually, James Robinson's the closest to being a feature back. And as we were praising the Jacksonville offense, maybe if you just bid like 30% on all these guys and you end up with James Robinson, that's fine. He's going to have the highest floor each week looking over the course of the year because he did everything you wanted him to do as a starter. He was excellent. He showed that, yeah, they were right to just release Fournette and start him. So Robinson maybe has the highest weekly floor looking ahead. But Hines also has that high weekly floor, and with PPR leagues, the high weekly ceiling with Marlon Mack going down. And it's hard for me, and I'm glad you reinforced how I felt this week, Cease, because I was so high on Hines to begin with. Even if you said in a PPR league, I'm going 60%, I'm going 70% for Hines, you're not crazy. You're not crazy. He's in a smash spot. He's in the perfect role with the perfect quarterback. Then we move on to Brown. As you said, Cease, there's Akers, there's Henderson as he gets healthier. I do think that Brown is actually the best fit for what Sean McVay wants out of his offense. A Frank Gore kind of just run downhill real hard, get the yards that are there, come back to the huddle and do it again. And he actually looked okay as a receiver. Someone compared him in my feed to Chris Carson. I mean, that's fair. I mean, just the style you're getting. He's not as good. He's not have as much kinetic energy as Chris Carson. But I think Brown might be the guy you get cheapest because last week he was a week 1 waiver wire fugazi. And it was Todd Gurley the rest of the way. It's going to be Malcolm Brown for the time being and maybe for the whole year. I didn't see anything yet, and maybe the game slows down for Akers as the season goes on. I didn't see anything from Akers on Sunday night that made me think, yeah, Akers is going to overtake him, as opposed to, say, Antonio Gibson and Peyton Barber. That's going to be your late round running back savior and OGCs. And then there's Snell. I don't know when James Conner hurt his ankle last night, but Snell looked better than Conner from the go. And sometimes we have to pay attention to offseason news, right, Cease? Snell comes down, right? It's slimmed down. It's distinguishing himself right away as the number 2 running back for the Steelers. And what you like about Snell is he looks indeed quicker, swifter. He has no longer is he Benny Snail. He's got some burst. Right. And he's still got all the fight. He still has all that fight, I'm sorry, and I have to go back and watch the Bears a little bit more. I didn't see David Montgomery with this extra burst, even though he has the fight in his game. So Snell is exciting. Now, he's not going to be D'Angelo Williams in place of Bell. He's not going to be Conner in place of Bell. Okay? I just don't see that happening because, as you said, there's McFarland. There's Jalen Samuels. However, this is still a good offense. Offensive line, we'll see. Zach Banner. Not Zach Banner. Man. I mean, really, Zach Banner? He's probably the most likable Steeler. Really. And he was about to get paid and have his big chance.
Yep.
Football's so cruel sometimes. So cruel. Anyway, so, Snell, the offense is good. He's not going to have that high Steelers number 1 running back ceiling. And the other thing is, it's the Steelers. Okay, when Conner is healthy enough to play again, is Conner just going to go back to the bench? I don't know.
No.
I don't think they're going to go full-blown committee like 4-headed backfield or 3-headed backfield. But I also don't trust Mike Tomlin to just say, hey, even though Conner was out because of injury, you don't lose your job due to injury, so he gets back in. And then we have more uncertainty. So that's one of the reasons that I didn't go strong to the hole for Snell this week. And again, James Robinson, giving him the least talk of this segment, but he might end up being the best pickup. Now, he isn't going to have win your week kind of ceiling, but he's going to have a high floor. And he looked good. He looked like a good all-around running back. This offense has arrows pointing up. So James Robinson, again, just be aggressive. Put some money out there on the table. If you get any of these 4 running backs, they're going to help your fantasy football team.
And just think about what you said there, Bloom. How many times do we have this many options?
Right.
Like legit options that if, again, like me, nobody cares about your fantasy team, but it's like I'm in desperate need of running back help, and I got plenty of options on the waiver wire. I'm going to get 1 or 2 of these guys in Fessel OG. Yeah, I'm calling my shot. Let's talk about calling your shot with Chase Edmonds, 12 to 25%. We said it in the recap show. When your head coach says this guy could be a starter in the league, that's a message. So make sure you're listening there. Let's throw in Jet McKinnon here.
Sure.
Just because the 49ers had a plan for him. You saw a bit of that plan. And again, it's Kyle Shanahan. As my voice cracks, like he could, at any time, Jet McKinnon could be the week winner for your fantasy team.
Yes. So you have in Edmonds and McKinnon, you have weekly flex, matchup flex, what the heck flex value. But you also have upside. With Edmonds, it's Drake injury. And remember, Drake has never had a season wire to wire as the lead back. So we'll believe it when we see it. Edmonds is a good football player. Edmonds is good. Like you said, Cease, if they say he's a starter in this league, pay attention, even if he's not actually a starter on the depth chart. He got about 1/3 of the touches, but one of those touches was a touchdown. And, the rest is history. Last year he was hurt. And then Drake gets traded to Arizona, and Edmonds is just riding the pine. Well, now we know that wasn't the plan. That wasn't because they just think Drake is so much better than Edmonds, okay? And we like this offense, obviously. Then we have McKinnon. McKinnon looks like exactly the player that they thought they were getting when they signed him to that 4-year, $28 million deal. And I know he's getting paid like vet minimum or something like that this year. But he's going to help out in the passing game. By the way, Deebo Samuel, setback. You hate that word.
Yeah.
Oh, nails on a chalkboard. But they need help in the passing game. Why not McKinnon? And then if Raheem Mostert goes down, McKinnon has that upside too, because he looks capable of doing a lot more than what they're asking him to do, and he's an excellent passing game back. So McKinnon, very exciting developments. And as an aside, Cease, I guess it's because of COVID times. And in fantasy football, it's our job to talk about the fantasy football implications of everything that happens. But it's not just Zach Banner because of the Steelers, like Marlon Mack and that Achilles going into his free agent year. It just
Philip Lindsay in the toe.
Philip Lindsay in the turf toe.
Going into his potential free agent year.
Blake Jarwin finally getting. You just feel for these players. And that's why we want to highlight Jerick McKinnon coming back 3 times. Jake Butt, man. How about Jake Butt getting out there?
Right.
But it takes determination. I don't think a lot of us, I know some of you listening understand this, but not most of us, not me, certainly. Cease, imagine if to continue to do our job, we had to relearn how to use our vocal cords, relearn how to type, just rebuild from the ground layer up just to be able to do the show again, and then having to do it again. It takes some incredible self-belief and determination, will. So I just want to take out a moment to say it's great to see Jerick McKinnon back out there.
And know that your window in life for this job is very small.
Right. Unlike this job, because we're going to be doing this when we're like 80. What were we talking about?
I don't know. Let's do the sex god pod.
Right. Let me get my Viagra. My doctor said I can't take 2 in a day anymore.
Let's talk about Joshua Kelly, 7 to 15%, and Adrian Peterson, 5 to 10% there. If you want steady, there's your steady guy. Josh Kelly, of course, people excited about because Anthony Lynn, can you believe what Anthony Lynn said? And subscribe to our newsletter at footballguys.com, and the takes are written by Bloom and I and Joe Bryant. When Anthony Lynn's like, expect more of the same with Austin Eckler.
Right.
That means and by the way, he also emphasized they're going to try to avoid checking down to the running back.
Right.
Somewhere Phillip Rivers was like, why in the world heck would you do that? Gosh darn, sucker. Like, that's Phillip Rivers because he doesn't cuss. So, like, okay.
Flarn, filth.
Flam, flarn. If that's the case, if it's more of the same, Bloom, what's that say about Joshua Kelly?
Kelly's got value. This is one of those situations where Kelly's going to get those goal line carries. And look, again, I hate doing this. Because I could also talk about all the things I got wrong. And I got plenty of things wrong in week 1 that have implications for the whole season. But change of quarterback, change of offensive philosophy. This was foreseeable that Austin Eckler would not be as big a part of the passing game, that the kind of passing game targets he would get would not be as valuable because Phillip Rivers, this circles us back to Nyheim Hines. Everything in the NFL is interrelated. And then he wouldn't get goal line carries. When Melvin Gordon came back, he got the goal line carries last year. And Joshua Kelly is a perfect back for goal line carries. Justin Jackson, I'm afraid he's going to be another one of those guys that we're just going to say, if he could have stayed healthy. But Joshua Kelly, so still lower ceiling, because 16-13, that's exactly where Anthony Lynn wants it. Got him right where we want him. Win by a field goal. Win because their kicker sucks or something, or hurts himself on the backswing. And Kelly... flex play, matchup play. This week against KC, maybe not a Kelly week, but then again, maybe he'll get some garbage time, short yardage touchdowns. I don't know. Chargers actually usually handle Kansas City well. Good game coming up there, by the way. Tough for the Broncos, already looking up at 3-1-0 teams. So Kelly's got some value, and then I'll toss 5 to 10% Adrian Peterson in there. Speaking about determination and will, that's Adrian Peterson. He's the best running back on the Lions. Maybe DeAndre Swift comes on and pushes his way into making this just a two-way committee. I weep for Kerryon Johnson. Kerryon Johnson and Sony Michel, Cease. Like, we're watching the ghosts of those guys. We never got to see what they could have done in the NFL.
Right.
So, Peterson again, he actually had some pretty decent value for week 1, and he looked good. But it's the reason that Kelly and Peterson, even though they're probably good for goal line carries, well, Swift got the touchdown, but Peterson's a little better suited for that. At least they're good for those 10 to 15 touches a week. Their ceiling is capped, so they're a notch below the players that can really change your season.
Changing your season, these guys might not do, but worth considering. There's Myles Gaskin. We had chat room asking about him a little bit earlier. 1%er. Peyton Barber, you have as a 1%er. Bloom, I'm going to throw in a couple.
Sure.
Because they're worth conversation. Jordan Wilkins, of course, a 0.5%er, whatever. And Royce Freeman almost scored a touchdown last night. We're waiting to hear about the extent of the injury on Philip Lindsay. I just woke up, so I don't know.
Mild case of turf toe.
Okay,
that's Schefter says.
What we thought last night, so it seems to be the case again this morning. Okay, mild case of turf toe. That means Royce Freeman has an opportunity. So 0.5%, Jordan Wilkins, Royce Freeman. I know the chat room's also wondering about the Dolphins backfield, what to do there. And we also had in the chat room talk about Anthony McFarland again. Francis was saying, is he like their Nyheim Hines? I was like, well, to me, Anthony McFarland's always reminded me of Philip Lindsay. So let's break down these 1%ers. Let's break down some of these guys. Your Peyton Barber, your Myles Gaskin. Let's throw in some Jordan Wilkins and a dash of Royce Freeman.
With Peyton Barber, it's just he might continue to do this. He might continue to get less than 2 yards a carry, but get the goal line carries. This week against Arizona, I don't know if I'd plug Barber in there, but in deeper leagues. And I'm working, if not next year, maybe during this year, to add some more fine-tuning of how we classify some of these players. Because you're right, Cease. Someone like Jordan Wilkins, somebody like Josh Adams, somebody like Royce Freeman are players that in deep enough leagues, and if you're the kind of fantasy football player I am, like that's the only leagues you want to be in, really. Like, like leagues where it really challenges you. These guys get onto our radar as potential pickups. Gaskin, so we get confirmation from Miami that the reason Gaskin got more work was just the way the game went. So I suppose, and this week against Buffalo, this could apply. In games where you think Miami's going to trail more as the game goes on, then Gaskin could end up being a solid but heck flex. He'll probably be on our Thursday show every now and then. But really just stay away from this backfield. They're not in New England's run defense. Playing against Seattle this week, watch that. New England's run defense is something we have to take heed of, even though they lost all their linebackers. They lost Danny Shelton. They don't have Bo Allen, who's going to replace him.
They lost Patrick Chung because he opted out. Dante Hightower opted out. Yeah.
Right. So you think, ooh, donut defense, big hole in the middle. Nope. They held Jordan Howard in check, and Matt Breida. It is Breida, Cease, by the way. I love you so much.
What do I say?
You say Breida.
Oh,
it's because you think of the bridle as a horse or something like that.
I don't know. If people aren't used to that by now, after 15 years, like, hey, Lammy's going to mispronounce things and never correct them. So Breida.
Yeah, I'm giving you a chance because we might not talk about him for the rest of the year. See? I just want to. The point is, stay away from that Dolphins backfield, probably. But Gaskin looked the best and probably is the most valuable. And certainly, if it's Tua and it's going to be a 4-12, 5-11 kind of season, maybe it's more Myles Gaskin there. Wilkins is a good runner. Wilkins similar to Justin Jackson, and they're both Matt Waldman favorites. The question is not, can Wilkins run? Wilkins is good. Wilkins is good at football. He just has to stay healthy. If Jonathan Taylor goes down, Wilkins is there. No, of course, they had Lamar Miller in for a visit. Then there's Devontae Freeman through Josina saying 4 teams. I'm looking between 4 teams. Well, I mean, I don't know. There's 4 teams that said maybe somehow, some way we might sign you at some point this year. I don't know.
Does that take a little bit of love off of James Robinson?
No.
Jacksonville did bring him in the week before.
But no, because Jacksonville's seen what Robinson can do now. They've seen what he can do. Robinson showed them, hey, I mean, if they bring in Freeman right now, I think it's just veteran depth because Zigbo's banged up. I think Robinson did everything you wanted him to do in his first game. Was he the first undrafted rookie to start at running back? I think so. There's nothing but confidence building in him there. And it's one of those issues where you just forget about draft pedigree. Royce Freeman, and see, you can talk to this more than I can. Freeman was brought in to be a big part of this backfield, and if he was able to, he would be already. They never would have had
the replacement for C.J. Anderson.
Yeah,
and then he lost confidence because some undrafted kid named Philip Lindsay just wouldn't go away. So there you go. And Freeman lost confidence. He was he was supposed to be the starter the last 2 years. Philip
Right.
Lindsay wasn't the starter last year.
Right.
That was supposed to be Royce Freeman, but Lindsay won't go away. Now this mild case of turf toe. Is there truly such a thing as mild turf toe?
Yeah, that's the thing. Well,
Half
look, Devontae Adams took 4 weeks off last year and then came back and was Devontae Adams. But if Lindsey's missing 4 weeks, that's not good either.
Nope.
So Freeman's going to get a chance to redeem himself. That's something. Although against Pittsburgh this week, maybe not this week. Teams are going to throw 50. It's the John Kitna plan, Cease. If teams are smart, I hope no teams are listening. No one in the NFL actually listens to our show, right? So I can say this. Don't do anything but throw against the Steelers. Throw 50 times a game, John Kitna style. Throw. Oh, Pat
Shermer won't do that.
Well,
we saw that last night. We could do Monday Night Football recap on the shows going on and on, but like Breida, like Pat Shermer. So now I finally got it. Now that I'm pissed, Pat Shermer. It was an awful game plan, just awful. Tennessee's handing you the game, and you're just like, I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe the yada 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 guy here is Josh Adams that we shouldn't be just glossing over, because Le'Veon Bell, and of all the stories, Cease, for Adam Gase to send Le'Veon Bell back out there hurt after they had their little hamstring tiff in camp.
Yep.
So you got Frank Gore, but Josh Adams, I have to say again, when he got in for Philadelphia, he had some bursts that he did not have in his last year at Notre Dame. He looked like a better running back than I expected him to be in the NFL. And I know he was a production draft candidate for a lot of people, but there's something there. And he actually was getting in on receiving snaps and getting some catches too. So Josh Adams, again, he's not listed in the waiver wire report because we don't usually go that deep, but I'll add him to Wilkins. And of course, let's put it this way, Cease. We would rather pick up Wilkins or Royce Freeman or Josh Adams than pick up Devontae Freeman or Lamar Miller and see where they sign and see
exactly
what happens.
Right. And with Adams, briefly, Bloom, didn't he remind you of Gus Edwards?
Yeah.
I mean, Josh Adams,
Straight
Gus
line.
Edwards, kind of the same guy.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah. But burst. I mean, that's the thing. Gus Edwards' burst got better every year too. So Gus Edwards is a guy that I'll be interested to where he signed next year. If the Steelers let Connor go and they can get him for like 1 year, $2-3 million, bring in someone like Gus Edwards. Edwards is going to be a good pickup for somebody somewhere, and Josh Adams is a good pickup for the Jets, and they're going to be using him against San Francisco this week.
Look at our man James. Says, hey, Sig and Cecil, love the show. First time catching a live show.
Yeah.
So there you go. Thanks for listening, guys, whether it's Apple Music or Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Also, thanks for watching. Do all those YouTube things, like, comment, share, subscribe as we continue on. And this is the confusing part because we're going to go back. Running backs done. Time for wide receiver talk. But first, Dr. Jene Bramel with some injured wide receiver news. Dr. Jene, what's up? We can't be stopped. Let's talk about those wide receivers. And Paris is burning, Bloom. You tweeted it on Sunday. We'll repeat it today because it's awesome.
Yeah.
20 to 40% for him. Jamison Crowder, 20 to 40%. And again, going back to the recap show, might want to get Crowder involved a little bit earlier than the third quarter, basically. But the Jets, what a dumpster fire. But Paris Campbell, Jamison Crowder, louder with Crowder, 20 to 40% for each of these guys.
And again, you know your league better than I do. And if you only start 2 wide receivers, if it's a 0.5 PPR league, then maybe you bring these numbers down. For deeper leagues, 3 wide receivers plus a flex PPR leagues, maybe are a little more aggressive because there's wide receiver help out there. And again, wide netting it, I think in a lot of our leagues, these guys were drafted. Well, Crowder certainly was, but just in case, and it was a broken tackle, long touchdown that made his day, but it sure looks like is exactly what we expected. Crowder and Herndon just getting production by default there. Crowder looks pretty good. And then Paris is burning. I want to make this, I don't usually try to make stuff catch on, Cease, but I want to make it, I want to make it catch on because I think people need to see the film. It's a true cultural treasure. It's a beautiful time capsule, And in like an American Studies way, you could use Paris is Burning as an on ramp to all kinds of American issues, and you can also use it. I want to make like a bingo card piece with fashion trends that come in the '90s, because this movie's from like, I don't know, it was late '80s. That you just try to get bingos. You see, oh yeah, that rapper style came from that scene from Paris is Burning. Check out the film, you know what I'm talking about. Paris Campbell looks like the best receiver on the Colts. Now, Philip Rivers threw the ball 46 times, and Campbell still wasn't a difference maker for your fantasy team, but this is exciting. T.Y. Hilton's still there. You know, they still have the running backs, they still have the tight ends, they still have Michael Pittman, Zach Pascal, by the way, playing a lot. As I love seeing the one-time special teamer from Old Dominion doing well. But Campbell looks good. As I said on the recap show, he has that Deontay Johnson, Manuel Sanders, Antonio Brown, Steelers receiver style. He can play fast, but under control. And you have to like that. And then, you know, see, maybe you like the 15 to 30% flavor. Because I put Campbell and Crowder in the first tier because I think they have a little higher floor, a little higher PPR floor week to week. But if you like ceiling, we got ceiling in the 15 to 30% tier.
We got ceiling there with Robbie Anderson, that deep speed, and him and Matt Rule. He already knows everything, and 15 to 30% for him to take the top off. Corey Davis, 15 to 30%. Now, our friend Matthew Berry, who is fantastic, talented Mr. Roto, said last night, like, could this be the Devontae Parker? It's a legit question.
Yeah.
Corey Davis is talented. I almost quote tweeted him, but I was getting pretty negative last night. I was getting pretty mad. Denver secondary is just awful. They suck. They're terrible. And with no pass rush or limited pass rush, like, you're exposing now AJ Bouye, if he plays, Bryce Callahan, who's tiny, and, you know, anybody else. Ojemudia made some plays, right? He's a rookie, a kid, whatever. But, like, you're going to be able to beat up on the Broncos secondary. So while Corey Davis has that talent, had that pedigree, and of course, I think it's a fair question to say, can this highly drafted guy in a contract year, no fifth-year option, can he be like Devontae Parker? Yeah, maybe. It's worth monitoring for sure. 15 to 30% for him. And then Mike Williams, Bloom, banged up and all. Bears up in the crib and everything. Like, Mike Williams out there banged up, taking big shots, but coming through for his team. He's a 15 to 30%er as well.
We'll start with Anderson. And I guess one of the things that we needed to consider more with Anderson was Matt Rule coached him at Temple, and Matt Rule is going to be the architect of this offense. So, of course, Robbie Anderson would get almost as many targets as DJ Moore. Same number of targets as Curtis Samuel, and Robbie Anderson's good. And the other thing he says, the Adam Gase effect. Why not? Everybody who gets free of Adam Gase becomes their best self, you know, reaches their new heights. Maybe after week 2 sees, we're going to look back, Carolina against Tampa, tougher matchup. You know, you got Vegas. That's the other thing is, when I look at Carolina's offense and say, well, it's because they had Vegas week 1. They're actually not going to be a good offense. If they're a better offense again against Tampa and Robbie Anderson has another good game, makes another big play, we may look back and say, Robbie Anderson should have been the number 1 priority across positions, because there was a time that Robbie Anderson looked like a fantasy wide receiver 1 with the Jets. Mike Williams, and I got to give a nod to my man Mark Stopa, who is a Bills fan, and said, hey, Mike Williams is the guy you need to look at with Tyrod Taylor. He's the guy that's going to benefit from Tyrod Taylor. Tyrod Taylor throws a nice deep ball. And Mike Williams, the shoulder issue maybe caused him to fall out of your draft, but he's playing fearless ball. So Mike Williams, it's interesting how I should have added John Ross John Ross is our 0.5% guy, right? See, because Ross, Davis, Mike
Right.
Williams, none of these guys really living up to the first round billing at this point. But Mike Williams, it's certainly very interesting and matches up with what Tyrod Taylor does have to offer. Now, how long will Tyrod Taylor be the quarterback? Well, how long will the Chargers keep winning? And then we get to Corey Davis, and Dynasty Burner pointed this out, Cease. Corey Davis is an anagram for COVID's year.
Okay.
So I know we like the numerology, we like the anagrams, we like the codes. You know, the universe speaks through patterns. Corey
The
Davis is
Fibonacci
good.
spiral. It's the
Yeah.
ultimate pattern.
Right, the golden
everything.
ratio. It is in everything. Corey Davis is good at football. I never thought that Corey Davis was bad at football, although last year was kind of perplexing. Then you find out he has this toe issue, had to be surgically repaired. It was still affecting him going into camp, the toe, rehabbing it. Now he was on the injury report with a hamstring. And Devontae Parker isn't this year's Devontae Parker. He's already missing time with a hamstring. But Corey Davis, obviously, this has all kinds of ripple effect implications for A.J. Brown, for John Smith, because Corey Davis was getting open at will. And by the way, Cease, if Denver's secondary is bad, what does it say for the Giants secondary that they traded for one of Denver's corners and played him on Monday night, Isaac Yiadom? No disrespect to Isaac Yiadom. All respect, all glory to anybody who's on an NFL roster or even at an NFL camp, even getting him for a tryout. The point is, these are like targeting DFS matchups when you're setting your lineup. But yeah, Jacksonville this week. And what's interesting here is who will CJ Henderson line up on? None other than Brian Baldinger. And see, if I say somebody who's passionate about football, that if they say something with some intensity about a player, that I'm going to listen. Brian Baldinger's top 3 on that list?
Yeah, Baldy's right up there.
Yeah, I mean, it's guys like Baldy and like Louis Riddick. Great seeing him in the booth, hearing him in the booth. There's just certain people. Daniel Jeremiah. There's just certain people when they go strong to the hole on a take. He said he's 9 games in. He said T.J. Henderson, the most impressive defensive rookie he saw in Week 1. So, and I didn't want to say C.J. Henderson downplayed his first game and said, "Yeah, I should have been better." So that's good. That's that energy you want from him, from this Jags team. So we'll see. But if Henderson is on A.J. Brown, then, hey, Corey Davis may keep it going. So Corey Davis undrafted in a lot of leagues didn't make sense, and that's why he's going to be on a lot of rosters in Week 2.
Laviska Shenault going to be on a lot of rosters in Week 2. 12 to 25%. Our man K1 was asking about Viska. Viska's out there. He can do more. Brandon Ayuk, close enough to being back, 10 to 20%. Make sure to monitor his injury situation, but they need him, especially with that setback for Debo, having Ayuk out there, who they love. Hell, that'll help Jimmy Garoppolo keep his job.
Viska is so awesome. And I know you know this because you're covering the Colorado beats. He's just a fun player to watch. I think it was Benjamin Solak, love you, Ben, who said, he's just a tank,
Viska did a zombie movie with my friend Sam at CU when they were freshmen.
Nice.
So the same class. So, yeah. Viska's cool, man.
When I was in college, there was a movie called Delivering Vito that our friends, it was all the fish had seen, made. And it involved like old ladies cursing and driving a dead body over hundreds of miles. And anybody that's possibly listening to this and knows anything about Delivering Vito, Syracuse.
Weekend at Bernie's meets Fish Tour.
Exactly. It was fun. We did a screening of it. Anyway, college films. Viska, he's like in a slasher movie in the sense that if he's coming at you in the defense, you're screaming like you're in the shower because he's knocking you down. And you love that. Now, volume might not be there for him to be a big-time impact player because of someone else we'll talk about here at the end of the waiver wire wide receivers. But you like what you see there. And Brandon Ayuk. The reason I bring up Brandon Ayuk is this. Debo Samuel, setback. Ugh. So Ayuk close to playing. If he gets on the field against the Jets this week, I might try to shoehorn him in my lineup anyway, because we do know that Kyle Shanahan's going to call plays that set up Ayuk for success. Ayuk's going to get a lot of the Debo Samuel touches while Samuel was recovering, and Ayuk was having a tremendous camp. Don't forget this, okay? Remember, this is something we got our first indicator on Ayuk. He was tremendous in camp. Then he gets hurt, kind of like Jalen Reagor. He's going to be back on the field with the hamstring. And unlike Reagor, who has that torn labrum he has to play through, hopefully Ayuk's hamstring is going to be fully healed when he does take the field, again, hopefully this week against the Jets.
Guess who the 49ers' favorite receiver was in this class? It's Brandon Ayuk.
Oh,
they had a
traded
chance
up for him.
to take all of them.
Yeah.
They had a chance to take anyone.
Right.
They could have taken Jerry Jeudy.
Yep.
They could have taken Henry Ruggs. Instead, they went Javon Kinlaw with that pick they got for DeForest Buckner. So their favorite receiver, the receiver they had targeted, was Brandon Ayuk. Just remember that.
Yeah.
Just remember that. Let's go on and talk about more of these wide receivers. There's Russell Gage. Chat room was wondering about him. Alan Lazard and Marquez Valdez-Scantling together there. This is the 3 to 5% group, Bloom. Let's break it down.
Yeah, just be thorough, okay? Be thorough. Look at your roster spots. We're going to get to shut them down. We're going to cue that Chuck D. Out with the old and with the new, okay? Even if you don't need him. Look, Green Bay's playing Detroit this week. Detroit's secondary's banged up. Lazard and Valdez-Scantling could have long catches again, long touchdowns. Lazard almost had a long touchdown, and you love it. See, don't you love it when someone gets a catch within the 5 and then they go back and they let him get the short touchdown? That's fantasy football justice. Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers looks good. Aaron Rodgers looks so good. And I mean, it's weird, Cease. Like if Jordan Love ends up getting Aaron Rodgers right in this way that they do win the Super Bowl this year, was it worth it? I guess it was worth it. I mean, Lombardi trophies are that precious. So I won't say that was the plan, but certainly part of your plan in deeper league should be Valdez-Scantling and Lazard should be on rosters. Absolutely. And then Russell Gage. Russell Gage had that big garbage time performance. Let's be fair. It was a garbage time performance. So how often is Matt Ryan going to throw the ball 50 plus times? I mean, maybe a lot. That's the thing, right? So that's the thing about garbage time. Oh, you don't want to count on it, but Atlanta's defense not good. Maybe this is going to be a thing. And certainly Gage is showing that he's taking to wide receiver, taking to slot receiver. Again, I'll point out that when he was drafted, he was drafted as athlete, basically. They didn't know if he was going to be offense or defense. That's good. The one caveat why Gage isn't higher other than garbage time is Hayden Hurst might still be that guy for this offense, but Jamal Adams was out there last week. So we're going to be watching that. Jamal Adams as a tight end stopper. Jamal Adams is a player now. This week they faced New England. So I don't even know. They'll find something else to do. Jamal Adams basically spying Cam Newton, something like that. But that might be why the target distribution went the way it did. This week, certainly we could see something a little bit different. You have to like what you saw from Russell Gage, though. You like the way that he's developing. Atlanta gets Dallas this week, so I won't. If you put Gage in a deeper league, I won't say you're wrong, but it could be a Hurst week.
Could be a Hurst week. What about one percenters? Keelan Cole and Anthony Miller. Anyone else you want to throw in?
Yeah, I probably should have put John Ross in there just because of the amount of snaps that he got. Yeah, 0.5%. Ross short-armed, but could have been a touchdown. It's one of those ones you could look at it and say, could it have been a better throw from Burrow? Maybe. Could Ross have gotten it? Maybe. Ross got enough snaps, though, that you're interested, especially if Burrow is going to play more in his comfort zone. I don't know why it took so long for them to get Burrow in more of a hurry-up offense. Keelan Cole's the number 3 receiver, or co-number 3 with Chris Conley or Laviska Shenault. What you like about Cole is, again, rookie year, undrafted free agent. Looked like big things were in his future. Kind of got sidetracked, that confidence issue, I think. Maybe also the Jags and all the turbulence in the franchise. He looked good and got the game-winning touchdown in that game. You like seeing him having some success. And then Anthony Miller, and maybe Anthony Miller should be higher. Let's see if we can do a little sidetrack here. It's week 2 waiver wire, the most important waiver wire of the year. So we're going to let it breathe. I put Anthony Miller at 1%. He actually, I don't even think played half the snaps. But he did score the game-winning touchdown, and he is a good player. And then, I put him as a 1%er before all this came up. So maybe Anthony Miller's more like a 5 to 10%er if we think there's reason to heed Allen Robinson taking the Bears off of all the social media. Allen Robinson, the era of player empowerment. Is there a chance, any chance that Allen Robinson pulls a mid-season Le'Veon Bell and basically says, I don't care what I'm giving up. I'm going to challenge you to somehow try to keep the rights to me. I'm going to have migraines or whatever. What was it with Jalen Ramsey? A back injury. Because they won't commit to him. I don't know, but I do know that if Allen Robinson sits at all, injury or otherwise, we really like Anthony Miller. So it's just something to think about. Put it in man, Allen Robinson. I want him to be appreciated. See, we all have friends that maybe we look at the person they're with and we're like, I wish they were with someone better for them. I hope Allen Robinson finds a quarterback, finds a franchise that's better for him.
Yeah, we do have friends like that. Let's move on from that situation. And let's talk about...
If you think we're talking about you, we probably are.
There's a wink and a nod to Dr. Jene Bramel as we talk about injured tight ends. Dr. Jene, what are we looking at this week? And here we go with Dallas Goedert, deserving of his own segment, Bloom, because he's 25 or 50%. Spend it all. Zach Ertz, not going to get that contract, man. Not from the Eagles, anyway.
So that was the foreshadowing, yeah.
Right. He's got 2 years left on his deal, but Dallas Goedert's taking over now.
Yeah, and he offers more than Ertz. I mean, even when Goddard was drafted, we could say Goddard, if he develops, is going to offer more than Ertz as a
Right.
downfield target, as a winner at the catch point. Ertz is going to offer a lot in terms of his route running, in terms of his reliability, in terms of his chemistry with Carson Wentz. But Goddard is going to add value to his targets. And that's what we're seeing. We may have seen the changing of the guard. And again, Ertz being unhappy with the contract extension talks probably was the foreshadowing that we should have paid more attention to in dynasty leagues. Now you can't get Goddard. A week ago, you probably could have traded for him for less. It would make you sick if you're thinking about, well, let's wait a week. It's too late. Goddard could easily be a top 5 tight end this year. Goddard could be maybe not Ertz volume, but he had the volume in week 1, and again, he's adding value. If you broke the bank for Goddard this week, I don't even care if you have a Kelsey or a Kittle. Kittle's banged up, by the way. Maybe if you have Kittle, you do want to go after Goddard or Mark Andrews. Whew. If you had a tight end that you're very happy with, it's still not a reason to not break the bank or at least price enforce. I know we talk about price enforcing in auction cease. Price enforce on the waiver wire. Even if you don't need Dallas Goedert because you took Travis Kelce and you put a, say, 40% bid out on him. Remember, this is tactical. We usually talk this stuff late in the season, cease, rock blocking, but somebody who drafted a late round tight end thought it was going to be Irv Smith or thought it was going to be Blake Jarwin, thought it was going to be Mike Gesicki. And now they're thinking, what am I going to do? Oh, there's Dallas Goedert. He went undrafted. I'm just going to spend 25% and yoink him off the waiver wire. Don't let him do it. Don't let people do it. Dallas Goedert is going to be a big time difference maker this year, Cease, and it's a good thing that Nick Foles isn't on the Eagles roster anymore, or we'd be talking about Nick Foles as a 1%er in those 2 quarterback super flex leagues this week.
Hello to Noah Fant there as well. We saw last night that he can be a big part of the game plan, and then Pat Shurmur forgets about him in the second half. Even after the game,
Pat Shurmur, huh?
Dude, Rich Scangarello was coaching for his job.
Right.
And they went 4-1 in 5 games with Drew Lock. They averaged about 24 points a game in wins because that game against KC was awful in the snow. And then last night they come out and score 14. Like, come on, seriously, dude, you were in. This is Fangio's pick because, Fangio may not have been a fan of Rich Scangarello. Let's just say that.
Right.
So now you get a hand pick, your OC, and he scores 2 touchdowns. Like, come on. But Noah Fant getting 5 for 81 and a touch
and a half.
And a half because Half Eddie. The other, he had one more target in the second half. That was it. And after the game, Fant was like, they just decided to go in a different direction. So he was very cool about it. But Fant, a big part, looking like a weapon, looking like one of those upper echelon tight ends, Bloom.
Yeah, look, and you love that the touchdown was an improvised play. You love the touchdown was a play where he and Locke had to be on the same page, and Locke with that arm talent, Locke making one of those no yes throws, and Fant finishing the yes there. And otherwise, Fant, this is why you take him in the first round if you're the Broncos, because athletically he's so imposing, and he just needs to be competent as a receiver. We're talking Jared Cook, right? He's already further along in terms of consistency than Jared Cook was going into year 2. So you're excited, not quite the same level as Goddard, but certainly another one that if he went undrafted, and I doubt he went undrafted, I doubt Goddard went undrafted, but we have to be thorough here. Plus, it just gives us a chance to, land some more shots on Pat Shurmur.
TJ Hawkinson trying to land some shots, 10 to 20%. We're talking all Iowa tight ends.
Yeah, and why is he a notch below? I mean, this was a game, and by the way, with Fant, why we're just a little hesitant to crown Fant is, no Cortland Sutton out there. So how does that change the target tree when Cortland Sutton comes back, when KJ Hamler comes back? But Hawkinson's still below Fant because Hawkinson, just as reliable as Hawkinson might end up being, he doesn't add the value after the catch that Fant does. And it's Detroit. Now, Detroit also somewhat, I don't want to say disappointing. I mean, Fant's night is disappointing when you watch the first half. For him to just stall out, that's disappointing, even though it was a great week. If you started Fant as your tight end, you're brilliant. If you started Hawkinson as your tight end, you're feeling good. But no Kenny Golladay. Seems like maybe there could have been more there for him than what he got. You just like seeing Hawkinson getting that touchdown. You know that Stafford's going to look his way in the red zone. It still, Cease, it just gives you this queasy feeling setting your lineup with any Detroit Lions in it.
Gives you that queasy feeling, girl. So let's keep going down. 5 to 10% for OJ Howard and Jonnu Smith. The easiest call in fantasy football is starting your tight ends against the Broncos.
Yeah. And it did take a play action, chippy, easy touchdown for him to have a good night. And again, 43 pass attempts. Sees how many games this year is Tannehill going to have 43 pass attempts? Maybe like 2 or 3 more times.
Maybe.
So again, Johnny Smith, good if he was in your lineup, but not exactly lighting the fantasy world on fire. Still, you love what he looks like with the ball in his hands. Only George Kittle better after the catch. I think even Lewis Riddick, that's the one he chimed in on, and what I tweeted about that. O.J. Howard, maybe O.J. Howard ends up being the second most valuable tight end on this list after Goddard. Because, well, Rob Gronkowski, it's great that Rob Gronkowski is out there, but he's kind of just out there. He's not going to be a big part of this offense. O.J. Howard has that same profile as a Noah Fant, as a Dallas Goedert, where he can add value to his touches. He can add value with his speed. He can add value with his athleticism. And now again, there was Mike Evans out there, but really was Mike Evans was out there. But Howard gets the touchdown. We'll see how Tom Brady's proclivities, inclinations evolve, but it may well be that Howard, we were a year early on him. And this is going to be the year that he breaks out. And it's Carolina this week. So that's what you like about that. With Johnny Smith, it's Jacksonville this week, but that probably means that they're going to, 25 pass attempts. So O.J. Howard maybe should have more interest on the waiver wire than he will get. And another chance for me to point out that Matt Waldman was one of the ones beating the drum for him going into the season.
Robert saying, where's your guy,
Here
Logan
you go.
Thomas? And whereas we asked the question, is Corey Davis this year's Devontae Parker? Is Logan Thomas this year's Darren Waller?
Well, Darren Waller light. I mean, look, Darren Waller was
not 1,000 yards, Darren Waller, because that's ridiculous.
And let's remember, let's do a little history lesson.
Rewind.
Right. Darren Waller was an heir to the tradition of Calvin Johnson and Demaryius Thomas at Georgia Tech. He was the ridiculous size, speed wide receiver in that run-based offense to take deep shots. So he's even a tight end is a big deal because he has big wide receiver athleticism and speed. Logan Thomas doesn't have that. Logan Thomas has good athleticism for a tight end, good athleticism for a quarterback, great athleticism for a quarterback. So Thomas, I think, is more of a possession receiver than a field stretcher. And he's not Terry McLaurin and Steven Sims. He's not. That was the thing. Waller, who was competing with Waller for targets last year? Zay Jones, I mean, and so,
right.
These are things that are going to keep Logan Thomas low on this list. But can Logan Thomas hold the line for you at tight end? Heck yeah. This week against Arizona, I know that George Kittle didn't do much, but he got banged up. Remember, last year it was start your tight ends against Arizona. So if I am saying I'm shooting my 40% shot at Nyheim Hines, or I'm shooting my 30% shot at Paris Campbell, and I need a tight end. I'm not happy with my tight end. I started Hayden Hurst week 1. He could bounce back or something like that. Evan Ingram. Throw a couple bucks at Logan Thomas and start him this week because I think that it's a good week. And then maybe the momentum will grow. But I love seeing that. And again, Cecil, I don't love this mode. It's too common in fantasy football. But if you listen to this show, then you were hearing about Logan Thomas for a while.
Yeah. And, I wouldn't worry about it, Bloom. I don't think there are others that I totally called it. It's just told you, because this game will shame you. This game, and as much study and research as you can do. And this is what I promised to the Denver listeners to my show. It's like, I promise you no one's going to put in more work than me. And I also promise you I will talk about when I miss, because it's going to happen. And that's the great thing about this game. You can study it, anticipate things. You can talk to people within buildings. You could know all these things and still be 100% wrong.
It's up to the players. It's because it's up to the players. It's always up to the players.
The game. Yep.
Yeah. No matter what the plans are, no matter what the expectations are. By the way, Mike Tomlin said they'll leave the light on for James Conner. See, that's what I mean. I don't trust Mike Tomlin.
Oh,
so
man.
Add that into the picture.
Motel 6 on us.
Exactly. So maybe still like Benny Snell, but we got to deal with Mike Tomlin and his loyalty.
Okay. Jordan Akins is fun to watch, dude.
Yes.
It's one of those fun to watch. 1%ers, him and Jimmy Graham. Less fun to watch than he used to be, but if Rodgers is on fire, look out.
Yeah, there's even 1% tight ends here. And we should say if Mitchell Trubisky's on fire, by the way. Remember
Yes.
Jimmy Graham, the star of Bears training camp. Jordan Akins, 2 targets. One, he broke 3 tackles. The other, he scored a touchdown. Now, I'm starting to think rational coaching in Houston is just not something we're ever going to get. Rational coaching would dictate that Jordan Akins should be a bigger part of the game plan this week against Baltimore. And also rational coaching would dictate that not just because of Akins' performance, but because the last thing you want to do is throw Baltimore's cornerbacks. You want to find other ways to move the ball against Baltimore. We shall see. Akins is not one to start this week, but one to put on your bench. I think he was on the field for 70% of the snaps or so, too. So you do like that. Kahale Warring, the water polo player, still in waiting there. And Jimmy Graham should have had 2 touchdowns. Had one, and it's possible that Jimmy Graham's going to reprise the role he had with Seattle, which is instead of running the ball in short yardage, we're just going to throw a jump ball to Jimmy Graham because he can still win jump balls, even with his knee with the gnarly scars on it and things like that. So the usage, it's against the Giants this week. I know Eric Ebron didn't too much. Clank! But Jimmy Graham could be decent play. Lots of help at wide receiver. The wide receiver churn is on. Cease. The disappointment's on. We'll talk about that and shut them down. The churn is on, and you got to stay on top of that wave. Even if you get pulled under, just get back on that board.
Mm-hmm. We are all here for you, and I think this might be the most anticipated segment of the Waiver Wire show. It's been so long. And I've said this before, but it bears repeating. I will go through the year and, just bumping around the Mile High City, and I've got my music on random. So it's just whatever comes up on my playlist. And sometimes this song will come up and a tear will run down my eye as I think and as I remember. And
Sorry, folks. Cecil will be right back. I think that the emotion of the situation overwhelmed his feed.
Did I get just shut down there?
You did. You got shut down. That's like total meta, man.
Yeah, it is. Look at what happened on this show. Okay. Yeah. Everyone's like, we lost him. That's what happens when you get to this point. I get to that point sometimes listening, watching, driving, and I go, why can't I say this? I can't say it yet. And I believe it was our man Diego who said earlier in the chat room, like, can we just do this all 2020?
Yeah.
This is cathartic. You're going through the week. Maybe you got those coworkers that are like super annoying and they text you all the time and you have to listen to them. Maybe you've got trouble at home. Like maybe you just like, man, I need some scream therapy. I need to shout it to the heavens. My fantasy football team has let me down. So I don't care if you're in the office. I don't care if you're at home. The kids are virtual learning. That's probably what happened with my internet at home. Is my daughters are in their high school Zoom calls. So, yeah, I want everyone, no matter what you're doing, driving around. Maybe you're mowing the lawn, right? Neighbor's going to look at you funny. That's fine. They'll get over it. They'll be all right because everybody in 2020, how about that? Everyone can scream this, can enjoy it, can let it flow through you as you say, cue the chutney! Boom! Summary week 2 shut them down.
Yeah. Cease. I'm curious what you think here. Austin Hooper, even with the David Njoku injury. David Njoku this close to making the waiver wire show in week 1. I don't really care. Harrison Bryant is gonna Randall Cobb. Again, don't assume rational coaching. And maybe Randall Cobb isn't getting open as easily as he used to in the past. You want Deshaun Watson with that offensive line, getting the ball out quick, timing routes, rhythm passing. Cease, it's Baltimore this week, Pittsburgh next week. So it's probably not happening for him. Marlon Mack, pour one out for him. Pour one out for Blake Jarwin, of course. Chris Thompson, they don't need him to be getting lots of cheap yards. They got a real offense. Brian Edwards, if you aren't going to do it against the Panthers when Dante Jackson gets a little banged up, you're probably not going to do it. Jordan Howard, Matt Breida, we talked about. Christian Kirk, how long are we going to wait around for Christian Kirk? He's got a deep ball profile, and he's not a great deep ball receiver. I mean, he has good enough speed. He has good enough contested catch skills. But Cease, whenever Christian Kirk got drafted in the second round by the Cardinals, we're thinking, oh, he's the take the top off the defense guy. No, more of a volume inside-outside guy. Well, that's DeAndre Hopkins. So Christian Kirk, look, I'm dropping Christian Kirk for the Visca Chenault Cease.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm dropping Christian Kirk, Brandon Ayuk, probably,
Yep.
Maybe not for Valdez-Scantling in that group, but that's the other thing, we want to make clear here. Keon Johnson used to be beautiful. I love that guy at Auburn. Never going to see that guy in the pros. Darrell Henderson, love that guy at Memphis. Don't know if we're going to see that guy in the pros, but too much for him to overcome. I'm not going to hold on to Darrell Henderson. Spoiler waiting. Irv Smith. I mean, if it's not happening in a game when the Vikings are trailing for the whole game, then it's going to happen one of these years with Irv Smith, but probably not this year. Tevin Coleman, it might have been air quality, but he's the third best back on the roster. And even when he's gotten big opportunity, what has he done? Duke Johnson, banged up already. Deebo Samuel, are you waiting really? After he had a setback, you have to wait at least 2 more weeks. I think we'll be lucky if he's on the field for week 4. Then the first week he plays, you're probably not going to play him. Then you're holding your breath for another setback. I love Deebo Samuel, the player. I don't know why. I mean, if you have an IR spot, put him in the IR spot. That's fine. If you have to use up a roster spot for the week 2 waiver wire run to hold on to Deebo Samuel, I don't think so. Eric Ebron, clank. I mean, maybe against Denver, he makes us look bad for dropping him and has 2 touchdowns or something, but I didn't like it when they signed him, Cease. I don't want to trust Eric Ebron on my team with the game on the line. I don't want to trust Eric Ebron on my fantasy team. And then I'll toss it to you this one, Cease, because it's a question mark. Well, 2 of them, because you actually have Leonard Fournette. So I'm curious about your thoughts there.
Yep.
And Philip Lindsay.
Yeah, minor turf toe. Guy will try to come back too soon from it because that's just his way, and it could linger on the entire season. I'm not going to dump Philip Lindsay. I'll probably dump Leonard Fournette in Fessel OG, so he'll be out there for you. Nate brings up in the chat room, A.J. Dillon. Like, for what?
I'm sorry. This is
Jones, Williams.
Yeah, I'm going to be mean and say I didn't think of A.J. Dillon because I wasn't even thinking about drafting A.J. Dillon. So I didn't think of him as a shut him down. But this is good feedback. Good feedback. Cease, real quick, let's give the folks some data points, okay? So you're saying, like, Leonard Fournette, you're dropping Leonard Fournette for Adrian Peterson. You're dropping Leonard Fournette.
Right.
Philip Lindsay, are you dropping Philip Lindsay for Joshua Kelly?
Yes.
Jerick McKinnon?
No.
Chase Edmonds?
Yes.
Yeah. So the point is, again, it's difficult, and I'm working with Simon on the Dominator, and I'm working behind the scenes with football guys to add some more layers to the waiver wire report, and we want to reflect that in the waiver wire show. So please, again, folks, give us your feedback. We want to serve you the best we can. But sometimes it isn't just shut them down. There's some unconditional shut them downs, and then there's shut them downs that have a little more subtlety, where maybe you're not shutting them down for just anybody, but if I have to drop Philip Lindsay to get Nyheim Hines or Malcolm Brown or Benny Snell this week, I'm doing it. If I have to drop Leonard Fournette, I'm doing it. I mean, do you really think you're going to regret dropping Leonard Fournette? I'll give you another one. Rob Gronkowski, Cease. We're shutting him down, right?
Yeah. We're
shutting down Gronk. I hate that. But, don't hold on. I keep saying hold on. It's like Freudian. Don't grasp so tightly what you expected about these players when something new is on the horizon and you got a good look at it for week 1.
Something new or something old.
Yeah.
Because as Robert says in the chat room, I know that there is pain, but you just hold on for one more day. There are those players, even in week 2, Bloom. You can't let them go just yet. Who are those week 2? Hold on.
Yeah, it's funny. We want to shut down 2020. Shut them down, Hurricane Sally. Sorry, my thoughts to everyone out there on the Mississippi and Alabama coast. They're having to get inundated right now by that one. And it's like 6 storms in the Atlantic, 7 something. I don't know. Holding on. That's really the theme of 2020, right? Hold on. Just hold on. Just survive. Did you survive 2020? Then you did okay. Did you survive 2020 with your wits intact, with your sanity intact, with your family intact, with your dignity intact? Then you're doing okay, folks. You're doing okay. Mark Ingram. I'm not dropping them yet. Now, Cease, if we start to see that J.K. Dobbins is the automatic call at the goal line, then we will be shutting down Mark Ingram. And it's sad, but it just comes down to goal line carries. Devin Singletary. I think Brian Daboll did a very smart thing, the thing that teams should do against the Steelers. Just don't run. Don't run. Or if you're going to run with wrinkles like, read options and things like that. As the Bills were building their lead on the Jets, they barely used the running game. So I'm not about to say Devin Singletary is not going to have value this year, because maybe this week against Miami, a different kind of defense, a defense where the strength is the cornerbacks, maybe it is more of a running back centric game. So don't be too rash about Devin Singletary. Although obviously, if you didn't expect the 50-50 committee, we talked about it a lot in the preseason, you got the 50-50 committee. Tyler Boyd had to deal with Chris Harris. Tyler Boyd looked good. Lo and behold, when Joe Burrow was playing with tempo, Tyler Boyd starts making catches. Tyler Boyd's going to be fine. Joe Burrow is going to be fine. Brandon Cooks, close. Would I rather have Brandon Cooks right now or Paris Campbell? I mean, if I had to drop Brandon Cooks, if it's the only player I could drop to get a Nyheim Hines or a Benny Snell or Dallas Goedert, I'm probably doing it. You hope it's the quad injury that really held him back. You hope it's just that the first game was so clunky. But if Deshaun Watson is just zeroed in on Will Fuller and Houston's offense doesn't really have structure, what's Brandon Cooks going to be worth? I don't know. Hold on. Let's see. Hold on to Devontae Parker. I know hamstring sucks. He was the number one receiver before that hamstring. He was getting the volume that you're looking for. Again, hold on to Hayden Hurst. I think some of that was Jamal Adams. Good matchup against Dallas this week. Hold on to David Montgomery. He was healthy. He was breaking tackles like he always does. Don't know exactly what his value is going to be this year, but after the preseason injury, you like that. This one's tough, Cease, and I want you to chime in. Do we hold on to DeAndre Swift? He scored a touchdown, should have had 2 touchdowns. Clearly is the passing down back.
Right.
So the passing down back, it's kind of an unorthodox passing down back. He's not a little water bug. But I think you're going to hold on to DeAndre Swift. That being said, the more weeks that we see this kind of touch distribution, really just like when you drafted him, what you need is Kerryon Johnson to miss time. That's what you were thinking. If you weren't being honest with yourself. DeAndre Swift, it's the Kerryon Johnson injury value that you were chasing. But now you have Adrian Peterson there messing that up. But, I mean, if Swift got all of the non-Peterson touches, then he's a weekly flex. Peterson's pretty durable. So I think we're holding on to Swift. Another tough one. Boston Scott. Disappointing. Hopefully you didn't play him, okay? I'm saying hold on to Boston Scott just to see how Miles Sanders comes back from the hamstring. But again, if I have to drop Boston Scott to get even McKinnon, I'm probably doing it. If I have to drop Boston Scott to get Mike Williams, I'm doing it. If I have to drop Boston Scott to get, if I need a tight end and that's how I can get Logan Thomas, I'm probably doing it. So Boston Scott is a little tougher, but Miles Sanders could try to come back, hurt his hamstring again, and we would say, why did we drop him? Deshaun Jackson says he's going to be more involved. Offensive line make it not matter. And when's that offensive line? That's another reason to be hesitant to hold on to Boston Scott. Because what kind of success can the Eagles offense build with their offensive line in shambles? So I'm not attached to Deshaun Jackson, but I'm also open to the possibility against the Rams this week that he has a little bit more. Don't drop Antonio Gibson. Don't drop Antonio Gibson. Don't do it. 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 Peyton Barber is just a guy. When Gibson earns trust, he's going to get more work. Don't drop McCole Hardman. Don't. I mean, okay, if you're saying I have to drop McCole Hardman to get Hines. I have to drop McCole Hardman to get Goddard. I don't like that decision. McCole Hardman can win your league for you. Marcus Robinson's not that good. Hawkins and Hill already has soft tissue injuries. It's Patrick Mahomes. It's keeping a chair Patrick Mahomes. Don't do anything rash. Don't drop Cam Akers yet. He still looks okay. I am a little worried that if Darrell Henderson gets back to full speed, will Akers look better than Henderson? Will Akers become the number 3? Don't drop him yet. Another year sees another year of wondering about rookie running backs that we drafted with big expectations. Maybe we have to stop loving these rookie running backs so much. Even Jonathan Taylor hit because of an injury, not because of Jonathan Taylor's week 1 performance. So maybe we need to wean ourselves from the rookie running backs. But we're never going to wean ourselves from doing this show with our wonderful people. 200 plus in the chat room for the
Yeah.
waiver wire. These are like unprecedented numbers.
I love it. I love
So,
it.
we
By
love
the
our
way, I'm
people.
seeing the chat room talk about Jerry Jeudy. Don't drop Jerry
No,
Jeudy.
no.
Now, these rookie wide receivers, and I broke down the numbers, like they didn't perform as we had anticipated. There were 2 drops by Jeudy that would have been for big gains, one probably a touchdown. There was one pass where Drew Lock didn't even see him. I mean, I'm going to the film room, if I'm Mike Schuler today and being like, dude, that would have been, 50-yard touchdown, and Lock didn't even see him. It was wide open.
Yeah.
So Jerry Jeudy easily could have had 2 touchdowns and over 100 yards in his debut. They'll work out the kinks. We'll see if Pat Shurmur can be better.
Yeah.
Pat Shurmur. Is that the theme of this show? Shut down Pat Shurmur. Cue the Chuck D. Or hold on, Pat Shurmur, just a little bit.
Maybe just the whole Broncos regime. That's what we're really asking about. But, they've had some bad luck. By the way, Jalen Reagor name came up. Speaking of rookie wide receivers, I think you're still dropping him for Chenault. You're still dropping him for Ayuk as far as rookie wide receivers go because he has to play through that injury. But you're not dropping him for just anybody with the hopes that Carson Wentz can get more of those 3rd and 22s to hit him deep.
All right. That is a wrap for the Waiver Wire show. Week 2. I'll go back and change it in the title, Bloom. I seriously just roll out of bed.
It's the waiver wire for the week 1 game.
Yes, technically something or such as. All right, Dr. Jene Bramel, we thank him. Follow him on Twitter at Jene Bramel. Follow Sigmund at Sigmund Bloom. Follow me at Cecil Lammey, and the show is at The Audible. We certainly love and appreciate you guys. He's Sigmund, I'm Cecil. We're The Audible. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Stay tuned and stay frosty.